Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another sketchbook tour. And this one's a little bit weird because you might look at it and think how all over the place it is. And what I'm starting to realize now when I look back on my old sketchbooks is what my mental state was doing at any point in time. And this book's not finished. It's quite a thick one, and I've got a few blank pages at the end. But I thought, you know what? Let's go in and see what's there already, and I can talk you through some of the process just in case you find that something you can relate to, and especially with the timing of where the world was at this time. It was the first lockdown, and also we'd had a few family upheavals, and I thought I was coping quite well with them. And when I look back on my sketchbooks, I can see where I started to heal mentally and where everything was all over the place and just really not in step. It wasn't working well. And I can see that now, that we're 4 years away from it. Like, this was 2020, and 2019 was a really, really rough year. 2020 was worse. I think it was worse for a lot of people, but it's really strange when you look back on something. You think, oh, I managed. I was fine. Nothing's bad. That's not actually true. Anyway, come with me and take a dive into this. And like I said, tell me if you relate and how it was for you at that time and how you managed with it. And if you've looked back over some things that you've done and realized how bad you actually were, and by the other side of the coin, how much better you are now. This is a Marabou mixed media sketchbook. Excuse me. I love it. And I bought it as I was going to do bullet journaling. So when I say all over the place, you want to see all over the place. It starts on August the 1st, about 2020. Now, I don't know how that worked out. I think I jumped back and forwards a bit and I had a few missed pages, so I went back and put things into them. Gosh, I haven't even removed the washi tape. Perhaps I designed that as well, Perhaps I thought that was a good idea. But I had always been a pure media artist, if you like. For 35 years I've been painting. And I've done some watercolor, I've done some oil, and I've done acrylic. And acrylic lasted the longest because I really related to that. But then I stopped doing any sort of art and did a few more university degrees. And then I thought, when we moved to Germany and lockdown happened the following year, I wanted to do something during lockdown. I didn't want to just sit because it was isolating, and I thought, right, now, well, I'm going to be one of these people who uses their lockdown to learn stuff. So I learned to make a deep pan pizza, and I thought I can either bring music or art back into my life at this point as an adult. I hadn't played any sort of music since I was in my teens. Art was more recent, and I thought, you know what? I miss art more than I miss music. I love music, but I prefer my art. So I started bullet journaling, and I thought, we'll just make marks on paper. They're pretty meaningless, actually. And then I stopped dead. And I've made some notes about what timeline this is. Like I said, it's all over the place. Then I decided that what I've got to do is I've got to start from scratch. Like I said, muddled. So I started from scratch. I started with graphite pencils and I sketched some birds. Here's one of them. And then I stopped dead. And this one here says the 1st of the 1st, 2020. So I don't know how this is August the 1st, 2020. This is 2019, actually. That would make sense because I've not put dates on them, and I've tried to work out what the dates are, but I think this was August 2019. So now we're going into the 2020, and all of a sudden I've decided to turn it into a garden journal. And I've written down the tomatoes I wanted to plant. Then I wrote a note to myself, what, a garden diary now? No. And then I talked about Corona lockdown and so forth. And I stopped there for absolutely ages. But what I decided to do as I put down here, was I went on to Domestika and I found some courses I could do. I thought, right, we're going to start from scratch. But I need some structure. So I went online and I found some Domestika courses. And the first one I started with was Sarah von Dongen's portrait course. Actually, it wasn't portraiture, it was drawing people in an illustration style, because that was something I'd never been comfortable with people. So I thought, right, well, let's take the bull by the horns and we'll draw people. So I started with Sarah van Dongen's course, which I really recommend, and did some sketching and so forth like that. But this is not my style. These could have been drawn by her, and this one especially, they look like her style. So it's not my style. Again, I don't know why I've written the 21st, 2021 there. Maybe it took me that long to organise myself, but I don't think those dates are right. Like I said, muddled. I drew what was on my desk. So I thought, right, that's interesting. And you can see that there is mixed media happening here. We've got coloured pencils, we've got a bit of basic watercolour, and we've got some fine liners. Then some more with the course. These must be right. So I've jumped forward a year. I don't know what I did in that year. I think I just learned and didn't do anything at all with it. And then I went back and rewatched the shows and I started again. Again, this is what Sarah taught on the course. And I wasn't really happy with it. It's gouache. I'd never used gouache before. But I really love it. And I picked it up very quickly. And I've got my own style with that quite quickly, because, again, gouache falls somewhere in between watercolour and acrylic. And, yeah, I guess you can say that. It's a water-based medium. It's not got the permanence of acrylic, but it's opaque rather than watercolors, transparent and translucent, much more translucent than transparent. So gouache, I was using gouache and other mixed media, and then I found to put coloured pencils on. Up until now, I had seen coloured pencils as a children's toy. Because I was, again, when I went to university, I did an art degree as in art history rather than fine art. So I've picked things up, I've taught myself, I've done courses, and it's all a big conglomeration and a mix. But I tried to do people. I don't like doing people. I found that I don't like doing people close up, and I don't think I'm particularly good at it. I'm probably no worse than other people, but it's not my thing. This one here was just a scribble. And I found that people doing things in pictures might be more my speed. This was another thing, again, trying things out, finding out that colour pencils are not a child's toy, especially not the price you pay for them. Yeah, don't know. And then this one was a different course that I did on Domestika, and using some Tombow markers and ecolines and things like that. And then I found Natasha Newton's work, and I absolutely adore what she does. She is such a lovely person and has got beautiful ways of doing her paintings, and I love her particular style. But again, we had to copy that. This is not my style, it's hers. And this was another Domestika course that I did with just drawings and bits and pieces, some more in Natasha Newton's style, where I was finding my feet with using more than one media. This is closer to where I was going for my own style. It's starting to develop. And then just doodles, watercolour doodles, add some mixed media to watercolour. I bought more watercolours, so of course I swatched them. And I don't like swatching very much, but I did it. This was where I started. You'll see the difference between some of this back here and then this. All of a sudden, I'm starting to find my feet, I feel. This is where I looked at this and I thought, you know what? I don't hate this. This cactus here, it took ages, actually, a lot longer than now. And I thought, you know what, this is what I like. All of a sudden my art started to speak to me, and it started to say, right, this is the style that I can use, because I have a style that I use when I paint with watercolour. I have a style that I use when I paint with acrylic, but I don't have a style for mixed media by this point. So all of a sudden it was starting. I'm thinking, you know what, I can do this. And I love the way these layer, and I love the idea that I can come back in over painting and not improve the painting, but add to the painting with all these things. So a little bit of swatching, map crunch, just stuff, just making marks. Printing, always been interested in printing. And you know what? You are seeing the entirety of my printing experience so far right now. It never seems to get further than this. I've done one or two small projects, and I made a little bag with a sheep on it and so forth, but I've not explored it the way I want to. So that's something for the future. But these are some, I thought, well, right, we'll start with some design, some line drawings. Then I looked at my trees and I thought, I don't like my trees. I like them now because I've got my own style. Again, I went back to Natasha Newton and her practice, and I watched her, and this is the sort of tree she drew. These are not my trees, these are her trees. And I thought, no, it's fine, it's fun, and they're very relaxing. Hate this, didn't finish it. Not sure about this. It's got so much stuff in it, I don't know where to start, but, you know. And I hated everything about this. Again, what I really hated about this was that it's not my style. It was someone else's. And so doing the courses was great, and just using my sketchbook the way a sketchbook should be used was fabulous. But I almost found my style with the cacti, and then back to this again. So, you know, where are we here? You know, so this is still my favorite page so far. And then this. This was a different course, so I did the exercises on the course as they were prescribed. So that's fine. A little bit more printing. This was a bit interesting. That was a bit more me, just fiddling around with lines and making marks. And I love these water droplets. I used to paint these and teach my folk art students how to paint water droplets. They're super simple and they look really nice on things. Then, for some reason, out of the blue, I decided I needed to paint something underwater, so you do. More people, what I saw out the window. And I realised then that I can actually paint people. I'd always told myself I can't sketch people. I can sketch people. So I did some people practice and people doing things. I realised actually I can if I want to. That's when I realised I probably don't want to. I don't like doing people face, you know, close up. That much. I'm never going to be a portrait artist. So any portraiture people out there, your job's safe. However, putting people into things, I thought I can do that. So I'm still sort of working on that. And every now and again, I realise when I paint an urban scene, it should have people in it. It looks weird if it doesn't. And so having some people practice is good. Then I did Phil Harris's course on Domestica about line work and dip pens and so forth. I'm afraid I cheated and I used one of my fine liners because I didn't have a dip pen at the time, and I thought, no, I'm not going to buy this and invest in it until I know if it's going to stick or not. I did a couple of things. This is more my style. I prefer, this is back to the style that I use with watercolour and acrylic. So really, I've taken the long way round and I'm back here. So this is my style now. Detailed layers and quite tight work. I've tried loose painting. The horses and things like that back wherever they were. Oh gosh, I can't find, whatever. The horses, they were meant to be a slightly looser style. Loathe it, don't like it. This is my style. Lots of detail, lots of interesting layers. Green Man. This is mainly colour pencil, but a little bit of fine liner and watercolour. I love him. I like the way Philip gets the things to come outside the frame, so I thought, well, I'll try that too, and that's good. Yep, like that. Love my owls, but this is done with a Pigma Micron pen rather than a dip pen, so my enduring apologies to Phil. Then some more gouache, and yeah, I think my camel looks like he's smuggling hot air balloons, but I wanted to paint a scene where I had an animal because I like them, and I had landscape and a few buildings and people in it. So this was a people practice thing. So again, I've got people doing things, a man heading through there and a woman coming out of here. That's good. And it was a bit interesting to do a sky that wasn't blue. I like that too, which shows you how hot it is there, with the sun being purple and everything like that. So that was nice for atmosphere. And then another one, because I was still in the mood for that, which I did some gold on as well with an acrylic marker. Okay, from now on, I think it comes and goes, but it's more coming than going. This is more my style. I was starting to find my feet. I was using the same techniques as I use in my acrylic painting for this. And, you know, just coming back with coloured pencils and adding texture and realising the extent of the media. Back to some people. Yeah, came to an abrupt stop with this. I was really enjoying it until I wasn't. So I thought, you know what, this is the point about sketchbook work and any artwork, is if you're not loving it, it's probably not what you should be doing. And I gave myself permission to stop, which was interesting. I gave myself permission to stop here too. That boat will probably never get finished, and neither will the sea. Who knows? I may do. I had bought some Faber-Castell Goldfarber aqua markers, and I wanted to see what I could do with them, plus coloured pencil. This paper's great, actually. It takes a lot, and it's good for wet and dry media. And yeah, it works. I've got a bit of acrylic marker in there as well, and I think there's some Inktense pencil, because that's colour pencil, but it looks like a watercolour pencil there too. And then I tried to loosen up, because everybody's saying, you know, paint loosely, paint quickly, paint in a limited palette, paint timed sketches. Okay, no, I don't like any of those things. I don't want to paint loosely. I don't want to use a limited colour palette, and I don't want to paint quickly or timed. I don't see the point of timing myself. I know they're good warm-up sketches and things like that, but I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you like to do those sorts of things? I mean, I like to paint the colours that I see. I don't want to choose 5 colours and just paint in that. I want to paint the colours that are there. Because I've ended up with a pink and a purple building here, because that's what I pulled out, and that's not right. So, and I don't want to time things. They take as long as they take. They use the colours that are actually in there. And as for looseness, I don't like this. Yeah, it's fine, but it's not me. And that was the thing. I was still finding me at this point. And I think the combination of losing my parents, my father a while ago, but my mother, of course, was the casualty for 2019, it left me wondering who I was. And I was trying to find that using my art. And I can see that at this point in time. So then everything changed. I went into the art shop when I was on this trip to Hamburg, went to Gerstecker, and I bought a few things, not a huge art haul since I had to carry it, but included in the mix were a half a dozen Derwent Inktense watercolour pencils. And welcome to the change. This is where it went. This was me. I sat down. I went on the 7th of July 2022, and that night, quite exhausted, I came back home and I painted this with my new pens and with some acrylic markers. There's some gold acrylic marker in there, and there's some black fine liner and everything like that. And I was in love. I realised this is what I need to be doing. And this sketchbook is not the only one I had going at that time, by the way. You've seen some of the others in my other sketchbook tours. It's just this one is the deep and meaningful one for me. So I thought I'd like to share it with you in case it either helps or, like I said, you can relate to it. And I thought, wow, that worked. I had another go with them again, and I thought, this really, really is very nice. This has led to my soft sgraffito technique that I'd like to say I've made it up, because I think I have made it up, and I haven't seen anyone else using it and claiming it as their own. So I'm pretty happy that it's my technique. And if you like this sort of thing, I have tutorials on my Patreon using the soft sgraffito technique, and I show you in depth how I got all of these effects. So there's a link in the description box if you would like to join my Patreon. and learn all about this. So I kept on, and I thought, right, it works with buildings. How is it with a walk through our local forest and foliage? And I just fell more and more in love. And I mean, here I've got a little bit of acrylic marker up the top, and just the different effects are amazing. It's astounding. There's a particular order to getting it right, which is what I've developed in this particular technique. And as you all know, as artists, if you're interested in art, sgraffito normally means scratching with a very sharp thing, usually into pottery to make those sorts of things. So I've called this soft sgraffito because it's the same technique, but not, if that makes sense. Then a sea scene. By this time, I was off the leash. I thought, you know what? This is me. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. When you're doing a course, sometimes you have to do the particular exercises, but I was alarmed at how much I was just doing the teacher's technique. And I thought, no, this is not right. I need to do mine. So this is what I come up with, and loved that. This one, love that. It was the bricks. Oh, they're such fun to make, to draw with this, and the textures you can get. Oh gosh, got a little bug out of one of my, that's what I'm chasing here. The textures and the foliage, all of these leaves and the effects that you can get with the Derwent Inktense pencils using this particular technique. I mean, everybody's got their own way of using them, but this is how I use them, and I adore this. And it's making me feel like I'd like to paint this afternoon. Part of the reason for that is because I'm supposed to be writing. Love doing the bricks and the textures on things, wood, pavement, all that sort of thing, all using this same technique, and it works particularly well. It's also extremely easy to do. So yeah, here just kept on practicing it. I couldn't get enough by this point, as you can see, and every single thing has got some bricks in it. Getting the roof tiles and all this, it's just lovely. This was, I think, Denmark, not sure. My son sent a picture of one of his trips. This is my sort of tree. And if you look back to where I was those few months ago with, this is Natasha Newton style tree, which she does brilliantly, but it needs her hand on the rudder, I'm afraid. Mine looks similar in a lot of ways, because I mean, in a lot of ways, this is what a winter tree looks like. But as it's developed, it's my take on it, because I didn't do much in the way of winter trees. Again, living in Australia, we didn't really have them. So coming to Europe, it was weird, because all of a sudden I was confronted with trees, the same tree that looks different 4 times during the year. Norway, soft sgraffito. This is a bit of soft sgraffito, but different techniques. This is back to the plan. Germany, my area of Germany. And this tree, lovely. I just thought, okay, this means that I can do so much with this one technique, and not exact. This is as close as I come to one material as well, because there are others in there. But mostly this is just Inktense pencil, to be fair, and a little bit of fine liner. This one, my friend went to England and took some photos, and I asked her if I could steal one. Again, my trees are undergoing transformations now, and rocks and texture and bits and pieces. This one, love that. I adore putting shadows into these buildings and so forth. It's really my jam. And the stonework and all the bricks and everything like that. The trees, you can't get better. The only thing that I would criticize Derwent Inktense for, and if they're listening and interested in any way, we need some really pale blues for skies, because to me that's still a little bit too dark. It's not, they happen in that colour, but I would prefer it a little bit paler. So yeah, if that's the only tiny criticism. Here I've added some acrylic marker, very fine acrylic marker, to the usual stone and a couple of sheep. I wanted to try a bokeh effect. I found this in a catalogue, I think, in Britain. It was just a catalogue picture. It's not anything really special, but I don't know if you can see the techniques, the texture, sorry, on this phone box just from soft sgraffito. And Loved that. It was, yeah, it's just nice. It was practice. And for some reason, I decided that in the middle of all of that, it's something black and white. And I didn't like doing this. It was a pain to finish. I made myself finish it, although I know I've given myself permission to stop before. I didn't this time. And I'm really quite pleased that it worked out, because this here is my favourite piece out of all the softs graffito. And it means that if I really wanted to, I could cut this out and frame that and not worry about the back, because it's not that interesting. This one is in Italy, somewhere Tuscany, I believe. And I don't know, the colours, they're just lovely. The one thing I love about the Derwent pencils is they have those muted colours that I adore. This one is actually from South Australia, where I lived for most of my life, born and brought up there. And that, yeah, it was a lake district where we were, not the Lake District, but a lake in the district where we were. This one, York, love that. These cobbled tiles and everything like that, but the textures that you can get, that's the main thing. More texture, more sgraffito, more Inktense pencils. And for some reason, sheep lend themselves particularly well to this. But as I think you can see, my feet were found overnight after a lot of struggle. And the struggle wasn't a struggle with my art. It was a struggle with how I was coping, and coping on day-to-day during lockdown, one after the other. Our son had moved back from Germany back to Britain, and it felt as though he was cut off from us. And because he's an only child, you know, it was just Rob and I and him over there with water in between, and lots of rules about how often we could see each other. So it wasn't the art that I couldn't manage to get going. It was the mental state. And when the blockage cleared, as you can see, it just one after the other, I was fine again. Yeah. And in Germany here, I love these grasses. These are my beloved, very fine acrylic markers that I use, and adore those. That's nice. I think there's a bit of gouache in that sky as well, but quite a lot also of sgraffito, soft sgraffito with Inktense pencils. This one, sometimes I like to paint a landscape with absolutely nothing in it. It's nice because you can just sit down and concentrate. There doesn't have to be a house, there doesn't have to be a car or a person. This landscape is ostensibly empty as far as we're concerned. It's not, though. What it's empty of is human habitation. There are no man-made things apart from this track, which has been worn over time. The rest of it would have been there with or without human help, and that's quite nice too sometimes. This one, just another seascape, and then more texture here, and a cow, as you do. And this was one of my this come over a couple of nights where I couldn't decide what to draw, but I wanted to draw something. So I thought, right, we'll do it with coloured pencils and just make some sort of marks on the paper. So I drew a few of the things that were in our garden at the time, in that particular July. And as you can see, officially sick of this now. I wore myself out trying to get it all together. But yeah, this is mainly coloured pencil. Stuck a few of my water droplets in. Love this one. This one is a tutorial over on my Patreon, when I show you how to do the soft sgraffito technique. This is the piece that I use to teach with. So this is what you would learn, and there are reference photos and so forth like that. I love these deep darks that you can get with this. Gosh, I really feel like painting now, and I can't. I've got to write. Check up on me this afternoon, please, and make sure I did some writing. Yeah, but this, it's just lovely. Pretty much all Inktense pencils. Actually, yeah, it is. And some actual sgraffito there. I think I can see some fine liner in there, but yeah. And that's it. I thought I spotted a robin, I did. Why? Why would you? Yeah, just when you think you will. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed that. It was quite a longer one than I thought, but that's I've still got some pages to go in there. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is when you can look back and you can see how, not only look back and see that you weren't as well as you thought you were, but that you are a lot better now. Sometimes you can't see that unless there's a record of it. Other people might say it, but when you look at a record of what you were doing at the time, you can see the problem and then the gradual recovery. And that's what, so this sketchbook is quite special to me because of that. It's got a lot of memories in it that some of them I wish I didn't have, but you know, that's what it is. That's how it is. And yeah, I hope you could relate. I hope it helped if you're in the same situation. And I guess what I'm saying too is if you are in the same situation, art therapy works. And by getting something of what you're feeling out onto the paper, it works. It really does help. And I didn't visit anybody with these problems because I didn't know I had them. I thought I was coping. And now when I look back on it, I can see, yeah, okay, now I can see it. And yeah, to have come quite so far is it makes me feel better, and it makes me feel able to face other things. So that's how art has been for me. So I hope you got something from that. Let me know what you think in the comments. And like I said, if you do want to learn this and also some of my other art styles, which you will see on my channel, I've got a few sketchbook tours there. I'm actually on a ban from starting any new ones until I've filled a few. So there'll be a few sketchbook tours coming. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Please consider joining my Patreon if you would like to learn to paint and like to learn art. I found it very useful. You might too, and it's always worth a try. And until next time, I shall see you again, and happy sketching. Bye.